Hello and welcome to Author Nation. I am Melody and your host and the founder of Author Nation. Author Nation is a YouTube channel, yes, and it is an entire community of authors just like you looking for success. So if you're interested in becoming a successful nonfiction author, watch the YouTube channel, subscribe. I do this every single Thursday. We interview somebody, and when you're published, it might just be you. So follow along, and I look forward to helping you in your journey. Today, we are interviewing Nicole Schur. She helps people find balance on her journey to her master's in industrial organizational psychology. Her co-collaborator and she discovered the needs language, or the needs languages, pardon me, a powerful tool to help personalities communicate. After the discovery, she wrote her first booklet, The Needs Languages Bringing Balance and Belonging in Dating. And shortly after that, they released their parenting book, and they have more to come in the series. Let's welcome Nicole. Hi, Nicole. How are you today?
Hello, I am great, Melody. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thank you. I have to ask about your last name, sure, because I know we had a quick conversation. I loved what your last name means. Can you tell us again what your last name means?
Well, of course you do, because we're going to be singing together.
Yeah.
we're going to be making an awesome tune. We're going to
Cool.
be making an awesome musical song together. If people get what that means.
Yeah. So sure means song. Yes, I love it. And part of the reason I love it so much is my first name is Melody. So I'm song, your song. So I just, yeah, that's fabulous. I love it. Thank you. And so you have
harmony and melody.
Pardon me?
We're making a beautiful song today.
Yes, it is. I love it. Thank you. So you have a business called The Seven Candles. And I was just curious about the name. As soon as I heard it, my whole what's that about, right? Why seven candles?
Okay, well, 7 is a very popular number. Everybody likes the number 7. 7's lucky. 7 means complete.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 7 represents a lot of things to a lot of people, and it represent. And then candles also. I mean, when you think of candles, you think of glowing. You think of keeping your candle lit, and like your aura lit. You keep being in that positive energy. And I had started this a long time ago and had made products, put it down, and went back to college, finished. I wanted a little more experience and finished my degree. And then I said, I'm just going to keep the name. I really like it. And it also has to do with your body, soul, and spirit, which is what we're all made of. And so it has to do with the fullness of who we are. And that goes into the needs language, which really has to do with getting ourselves balanced kind of in all three. Because and I haven't really done so much the body with the needs languages, but it really has to do with your soul and your spirit and your emotion and your life force, your spirit. So when you're balanced, you can create your belonging, which is what we all need to have as our belonging.
Yeah, I love that. And fire is one of the elements as well. So candles burning, it's part of it's elemental, right? I love that. Did you know you were going to write a book when you started your master's degree? Did you go into, I'm going to go do my master's degree and then I'm going to write all these books? Was that your thought?
Not exactly, but I've always known I was going to write a book. I just didn't know it was going to be after my master's.
Right.
I thought it was going to be a children's book.
Oh.
I've been in writers groups for a while, and I was working on one for a while, but it just was not clicking.
Yeah.
And but the needs language just kind of came together. And when it came together, it was like, okay, we're going to write short, sweet, to the point. Yeah. And I've been advised by other authors, you got to write long books. And we were talking about that earlier. And I was like, I will eventually, but in this situation, this is a different situation. I did go against other people's advice where they're like, okay, you're an IO psychologist. And I shorten as IO psychologist, industrial organizational psychologist, because one, it's a mouthful. Two, you have to have a degree to say it or spell it, is what I like to say. But they've said go to the workplace, which is, what, don't mix it up, but people have more than work. And
Mm-hmm.
not everybody's a parent, not
Yeah.
everybody's dating, and not
Yeah.
everybody's in a relationship. So if I write a big book that has dating, parenting, and relationship, you're going to look
Yeah.
at me and go, I don't want to buy that book.
No.
I need just the dating part, or and so that's why we broke it up individually.
Yeah. And I think that's really wise. And that's something I've advised my clients. Sometimes they come and I need to write a book. It's like, well, maybe it's just a booklet. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's something shorter. A booklet, I think 50 pages about the limit between a book and a booklet, right? And
Yeah.
and what you really want to do is give people what they need. You're giving them a gift of something. And if it takes 49 pages, then it takes 49 pages and it's a booklet. If it takes 59, then it takes 59 and it's a book. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a silly line to worry about when what you really want to do is give something to people. So I wanted to know, when you went into your master's degree, was this discovery a surprise, or did you go into your master's degree kind of with a question you wanted to answer? How did that work?
So I had done my bachelor's, my undergrad in business and conflict resolution, and I could go into the medical field. So when I done my minor with conflict resolution in business, I did not want to do a traditional business degree. I did not like that, and
Mm,
I
yeah.
did not like the way the business world was working. And they wanted IO psychology because they have a big heart for inclusion.
Mm,
I don't like diversity as much. And the reason why is it's diverse, it divides. And
right.
I see right now in our world, especially with Gen X, because the ADA didn't come out till the 90s, that we are having a problem with disabilities. In
Mm,
2015, it was 20%. In 2018, it went up to 25%. One fourth of the population have diagnosed with disabilities. And and this is just statistics, 2 to 3 times higher unemployment rate with people with disabilities. So you're talking one fourth of population is having a higher unemployment rate because employers and other people aren't understanding people capability
yeah.
within context. So people aren't understanding disabilities and how to work with it. And not only that, we're not understanding minorities. I mean,
Mm,
so we're not understanding what the real issue is. We're not understanding capability within context. We're not
yeah.
understanding the language. And so when I went through my master's, that's why I went in thinking, how can I help solve this problem in the employment
Mm,
area?
yeah.
And we're getting better with millennials, but Gen X is still in the workplace and they're a viable group, and they're
Yeah.
kind of being thrown under the bus. And some of the baby boomers are still having to work, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't get any of this. I mean, they so and then that's the other reason I developed the personality model, is I saw things were so divided. A lot of the leadership models were not dealing with
Yeah.
conflict resolution. I'm like, what? Huh? You're not dealing with communication styles. And people are not balanced within themselves and not knowing how to communicate. And there's a lot of wounds going on. People are not being taught in schools. They're not
Yeah.
getting their mental health dealt with. We're not dealing with things. I mean, like DBT is a great tool, but it's considered a mental health tool. And
Right.
so we're not giving this to kids in school when they're needing it. We're not giving this to people in workplaces. So we're having, not saying that disabilities are caused, because there are all various reasons why, but part of
Yeah.
the reason the increase is happening is because we aren't dealing with capability within context.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's one of the reasons why. And then that was the other reason why I developed the personality model, was because I
Yeah.
realized we aren't dealing with personality communication.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a huge question, which you're not going to be able to answer here because it's a whole thesis and whatnot. But even just culturally, for example, I lived in Peru for many years, and I remember when I got there, I'd be talking to people, and they'd be standing right here, right?
Yeah.
and and I was actually, before I lived in Peru, I was living in Japan, where people were standing like this. And so
Yeah.
when I got to Peru, people would be talking to me, and I found myself, I kept stepping backwards and stepping backwards. So even something that I'm going to call small, because you think of it as like a really small cultural
Yeah.
convention. But if someone from Peru came to Canada, where I live, and went into a corporation and started getting really close and passionate, people around are gonna miss the gift that the person is bringing to the corporation, because they're gonna get stuck on this person stands too close to me, right? So
Yeah.
so the big question is that you can't answer, but maybe you have some thoughts around where we can find answers, is how do we solve this? How do we work with people from different cultures and different capabilities in a workplace, so that each of us can bring that beautiful gift we have, and we can create corporations that are um, inclusive, warm, serve the people internally and externally? Like, where do we even start with that?
So part of the issue is, the first issue is, we're too competitive with each other. We're not
Mhm.
complimenting each other. As a musician, as a vocalist, I sing symphonic metal. I told you that earlier. And one of the things is, I could be competitive with other people who sing. Uh,
Mhm.
and we don't
Yeah.
look at it as, some people are going to love my voice and some people are going to go, not my cup of tea. If I'm competing with people constantly, I'm never, if I look at my model as a competitive with other people's model versus my model, may be for some and may not be for others.
Mhm.
We have to look at it. We build with each other and we work with each other. That's the first thing. So I would take my model with something like a nonviolent communication model, Hofstede's country comparison, which is awesome. You can take United States with Japan with another, and you would put them together, and you would understand like masculine versus femininity, other sorts of aspects of that country compared to ours, and then have those conversations about, this is how this country works, this is how your country works, how do we work together? One
Yeah.
thing, being in my state, that I've noticed, and traveling around the United States and other countries, we are really bad as cultures, just in general, but especially certain countries. We go to other places and we say, I don't like what it's like living here. I'm going to go to this other place, but I'm going to try and change it the way where I live. And I
Mm.
don't care how other people like it. I don't go to your living room, rearrange your furniture. I don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
come to my home and do that. And I've actually had people come to my state, go, we love it here, and have done that. And I am so irritated because my home has changed. Now, granted, there are some things that need to be progressive and need to change, and we need to be inclusive. However, we also need to be respectful of people's culture. And that's where we need to be understanding and learn these things. And that's where, like, some of the personality models that I noticed were all about the self and not about the other. And this is
Mhm.
where the balance this is one of the aspects of balance. When we are balanced within ourselves, we can learn about ourselves.
Mhm.
We can learn about the other person. So for example, if I'm balanced, one of the personalities is important in mine. If I'm balanced and my important, and I'm around other people who are important, and they're balanced and they're important, we complement each other instead of destroying each other. If
So
another person's balanced and they're right, I'm balanced in my right. We're
yeah.
not fighting, we're working together, even if we don't see eye to eye
Yeah.
or
I
ear
love
to ear.
that. Yeah, I love that. And interestingly enough, I think that the publishing industry is an industry that lends to cooperation rather than competition, because if you read one mystery, you read every mystery. If you read one romance, you read every romance. So authors of a particular genre hurt themselves when they try to compete with other authors. Cooperation is actually what you want. I want to talk about your books, but then I'm going to ask you a little bit more about writing and how you can bring that whole idea that you just gave us into your writing. But
Mm.
let's start with so you're writing books related to the needs language. So let's just start with, what are the needs languages? Let's just give the basics there so we can understand what we're talking about.
So where the needs languages came from is, they came from Jung and Hippocrates, like a lot of things came from. And one of the things we noticed is, a lot of people are not going to go, hi, I'm a clifloric. I can't even say it. They're not going to know how to say it or spell it. Those words are outdated. And
Yeah.
that's why, a lot of your modern places, and I'm not going to mention names, are great, because they've done things, but they've made it about the self, and they've also made it very complicated, where you have to look things up and you go on like Tinder or Plenty of Fish or any of those places, and you're like, great, you have your all these letters. Now I've got to go look up what you are, and I don't really want to do that because it takes too much time. Or you have to look at their numbers and then you have to read all this stuff. Or they're
Yeah.
super simple and they're all these colors, and then you're like, that's. So we wanted it simple, quick, and easy, but clear enough that you just kind of go, oh, okay, I got an idea, but with enough depth that you have to study a little bit more. So we did 4 basic types. Trying to make sure I'm on camera here. And we're 2 out of the 4. And what we realized is when you're in a romantic relationship, you meet a person in one, and then you're different in another. Friendships and relationships, like normal, you can meet people in both, or you meet people in one. And when you're not in a any sort of you have to have some sort of connection with someone, or you're in an opposite language. So I'm gonna list the 4 out, and I'm gonna almost guarantee that you can kind of get an idea when I say these 4 words. You're gonna know: right, value, important, and control. So right people are right, wrong, good, bad. Very, very simple. I mean, just value people are cost benefit. Cost benefit. Control people, environment, need to know all the steps. They like their environment a certain way. Yeah. And then important people, they need to be seen, heard, priority, goals, I mean, just they're the kind they're not doing it purposely. They're just, their subconscious mind makes them do it that way. And that's just that basic and that simple. And again, we're 2 out of the 4, and that's kind of how it works.
Yeah. And you said something that really struck me when you were describing the dating. You said, we meet people in one and then we shift to another. And I think a lot of people out there are going, yeah, when you meet someone, they behave one way. And when you get into a relationship, they seem to behave in a different way. And I think that can be a frustration for some people. And so you've written a book about the needs language and dating. So do you want to just tell us a little bit more about that particular booklet?
So that one was kind of a fun one because I'll tell a little story about that. I actually designed my partner, and I didn't realize I had designed my partner off of that. And even before we really came up with that model, and I'd always known I wanted to date someone like my stepdad. And you didn't realize that was the personality type. And it's a CV, control value. And I am a important value. So I meet people, my personality types that I would prefer to date would be a control important or control value. Control value is my favorite. So I meet people in the value, or I would meet someone in important. I would never date a control right, because a control right, I would have no communication with them whatsoever. I would have to meet someone either in value or important to date them. That's how that works. So we were writing this because there's a difference between love languages and needs languages. You can meet someone in a love language and feel this deep sense of love, but go, there's something missing. It's not, I love you, but oh my gosh, I'm feeling like you're giving, but your core, the way you communicate, your personality, you just can't communicate. And I was having that, and I wasn't knowing what to do with myself. And so that's one of the reasons that me and my co-collaborator wrote the needs languages, because it was to explain that. It was also to help design your ideal partner, because some people are discovering, what do I like? And they're going through this discovery path. My son, and this says a big thing, was going through that discovery path. And I looked at him and I said, well, I like a control value, and this is why. And within 2 months, they found a control value and been happier than they've ever been. And their control value, their type was right value, showed them the model. They about fell over with the book and went, Everyone tells me I date someone like my roommate, which is a right value.
Mm.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
literally was like, and so it was very, very interesting to see this and to just really walk through this. So
Yeah.
that's why we started with the dating, because we wanted to teach people you can design what your type is or figure out what you like.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to say for people watching live, please feel free to comment or ask questions. We would love to hear from you and answer your questions. And if you are watching on the replay, keep watching. There's a lot more to come. So that was the dating book, Nicole. What other books do you have out on in the series right now?
We have a parenting book out right now, and that one is a little more intense. I do bring up the wounds of a parent,
Mm-hmm.
because and this one came more kind of out of a workplace situations, because my co-collaborator and I have had situations where we've had workplace situations and parenting situations where we've had opposites, and which can be very, very, very challenging. My mother, who has really been done the best she could, is a control
Mm-hmm.
right. I'm an important value. We had a love language in common, but we did not have a needs language in common. And when
Mm-hmm.
you get wounded by important, and you don't understand important,
Mm-hmm.
or you want to control your environment where important is not seen, it can be very devastating. Or you want to protect, because sometimes IVs can come across we can be very highly intelligent, but we can also come across do, 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 we're whistling, we're just kind of, and so there can be things that can happen that can cause wounds, and parents don't realize it. Or if you have two rights and your rights are so strong, your rights are conflicting, and
Mm-hmm.
this is where a lot of people don't understand. When a right person is told they are wrong, unless it's
Mm-hmm.
explained explicitly, they think their being is wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to show them it's a choice, it's an outside thing. When my child was 3, I said they understood the word consequences, and I thought they were smart. No, they are smart. Don't get me wrong. No, they are smart.
Yeah.
It's just that consequences is a right word. I wouldn't grasp the word consequences.
Right.
So, right to them, I have to be very careful that I explain it as a outside of them versus
Mm-hmm.
them. If an important person cannot be seen, you're telling them that their very being is wrong. If a control person cannot feel in control, their very being is it hurts them. It's their who they are. And if a value person cannot see a benefit and everything is costing them, they're dying.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the parenting book is very intense, and a lot of people may go, oh my gosh, your poor mom is probably, it was a harsh situation for both of us. And and I wish I would have put this in later, as we end up talking about this model and working through it, and we'd worked through some other stuff too. It was a wow moment. Oh my gosh, conflict resolution. And oh, this has been, powerful. And that the parenting one is a very intense, because you've got to find balance, that you don't destroy your children, that you understand how to
Yeah.
guide your children, bring your needs language in, bring balance in. And it's a very fine dance.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And I think about my own kids as you're talking about this, and I'm curious what my needs languages are compared to theirs, and how that relates to our relationship. as, parent child. That's really neat. So just thinking about the parenting book specifically, if I were in the bookstore and I picked it up and I looked it over, that you go into a bookstore, you're looking for a book, but you lay your money down because you believe that there's a promise there, there's a gift, or something you're going to receive from the book. What would you say, just for the parenting book, what would be the promise of the parenting book?
It's very story based. It's
Mhm.
really relatable as far as story goes. It's that's where I'm talking about being silent versus silenced. I'm talking about the
Mhm.
difference between love languages versus needs languages and how you can relate to it. I don't talk the booklets are more to introduce you to the needs language and more story based, and how and to kind of get you thinking about, how am I communicating with the needs languages? How am I
Mm.
relating to my child? And, really to just more so introduce that, and thinking, if I had a child who needs to be right, how do I navigate that? How do I not
Mm.
overpower them? How do I communicate that? How do I let them be seen? Um,
Mhm.
it is more more introducing, and more to let you discover, because we
Mm.
do too much telling each other in society. We do not allow each other to think.
Yeah. No, very, very good point. And very particular in parenting, I've noticed it, and it's challenging as a parent, because when they are little, you do all the telling, in the sense that in some ways, they when they get hungry, they cry, you feed them, so they're also telling you. But when they're two, it's like, no, you can't run out into the road, right? We do a lot of telling, to
Mhm.
keep them safe and to help them navigate. But at some point, we have to stop telling them, and we have to start letting them navigate. And I think that transition can be incredibly difficult for parents. I know it was difficult for me. I always used to say, when my something happened with my kids, I'm like, look, as a parent, I'm always catching up to you. Like, because as soon as I think I've got it sorted, I know where you are, what stage you're in, and I know how to help you. You're in a new stage, and you're in a new developmental stage, and I have to figure out where you are. And I always felt like I was playing catch up, if that makes sense. And so the needs
Yeah.
language sounds like it kind of helps me, even though I still have to catch up, it helps me navigate in a way that I understand their basics needs, and then that'll help me catch up faster, if that makes sense.
Oh, it
Yeah.
does. It actually does, because now when I talk to my son, I can
Mhm.
actually use. I used to say to him, "I want you to have a happy life," and he
Mhm.
looked at me like, "What does that mean?" I want you to think. I want you to make a good choice for your life.
Mm.
That's clear to him. And I actually
Mhm.
talked to his with one of the girls, that is the friend that is just like him, an RV.
Yeah.
And I explained them all. And she's like, "Yeah, if you say happy life, I have no clue what you're talking about. If you say good life, totally get it. Totally get the
Mm.
cost benefit. Totally get the right versus wrong. But don't you dare say happy to me. I don't
Mhm.
get what you're talking about."
Yeah,
So,
interesting.
and it's simple. I mean, I would get happy. I totally get happy. So I
Yeah.
have to, but him and I meet in the value. And
Mhm.
so I can now have conversations with him about how to approach people. And have you thought about it this way? And he is older, but the needs languages really help me, even when I'm dealing with people who are opposite of me, who are control right. I now know how to communicate with them.
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that beforehand. I can tone myself down in my importance,
Mhm.
and I can tell them, I'm an important value. This is what
Mhm.
I need. And I will
Yeah.
tone myself down.
Yeah.
And this is what I think you need. How can we work together?
Yeah. I love
Workplace.
that.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Imagine bringing this to the workplace.
Yeah.
Teachers,
Absolutely.
teachers in
Yeah.
classrooms,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. No, I get it. That's amazing. And that's a great segue, because I want to talk about, how authors can bring this into their work. And I want to talk about two different ways. First, I want to talk about the author themselves when you're working on a book. How do you figure out, like, say I figure out I'm a CV, how does that help me in my struggle to write a book? That's the first way. And the second way, well, let's answer the first way and we'll move on to the second way. So as an author, if I identify my needs languages, how does that help me actually write a book?
Well, so you're going to go through your lens. So if you said a control important, you're going to be talking about the environment. Environment is about steps. You need to know all your steps. So you are going to want to lay out your steps. You're also important. So you're going to know your priorities and goals. Now you've got your goals, you got your priorities, and you got your steps. You're going to want to know your environment looks like. You're going to lay out your environment. You're going to lay out your goals. You're going to get your priorities in straight. And now you've got that laid out. That's just a basic way. However, I'm going to give you a little clue. If you're a control value, you will not do goals. And don't you dare tell a control value to do goals. They will want to slap you so hard.
Right.
You never tell a control person when it does not have an important anything about a goal. And I'll tell you, I've talked to control people that do not have important. They say, do not bring goals to me. I do not get goals. But if you say, how can I help you create steps to get you to achieve what you want? They go, I get that. You just said goals to them. The language, it's a language.
Yeah. Interesting. And that reminds
the language.
Yeah. And that reminds me, because in writing, when you're in author circles, some people say I'm a pantster, and other people say I'm a planner. And pantsters kind of write from the seat of they fly by the seat of their pants. They don't have a plan. They don't have an outline. They don't have they just dig in and they write. And other people, they're like, how do you do that without that full outline? So how does that fit? If you're a pantster versus a planner, where might that fit in with the needs languages?
Well, that's going to probably be is going to be more your right person is probably going to be someone who's they're going to be more your belief. They could be either or. Your system person is probably going to need a plan. They're going to need all those steps. Yeah. And that's how that's kind of how it's going to fly. Yeah. So that's where you're going to know those kinds of things. So the control person's going to want their system in place. Yeah. And you can't change. And this is where it gets exciting. You're amazing as you are. Do not try and change it. Just accept it and find balance. I mean, I got to tell you, as an important person, sometimes I'm out with people and the music will stop and I'll say something right as the music stops. And everyone will turn their head. I'm like, oh, crap. It happened again. Yeah. And I just have to accept it. And people, someone said to me once, they said, they did it on purpose. That important person. I'm like, yeah, you kind of did, but you didn't mean to. It just is how you're wired.
Right.
And so it's finding balance. I'm not shouting necessarily. I'm learning how to be balanced in it. I'm not neurotic in it. I'm accepting of others in it, and I'm kind in it. Yeah. So I'm not telling people they're doing it wrong, or I'm not telling people, I wish I was like you. I'm accepting of myself, and I'm kind to myself, and I'm kind to others.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I want to flip it the other way now. I'm writing a book, and I want to ensure that everyone can digest what I'm saying, understand, accept, learn, grow from it. And here I am writing a book, and there will be right people reading it, and there'll be important people reading it, and there will be value people reading it, and there will be, I'm missing one, important control people reading it. And so when I'm writing the book, how do I take this into consideration so that I can speak to different people and their different needs languages within the book?
So you're going to have to think about environment. What do environment people are thinking about with their environment? What are important people thinking about? What are value people thinking about? And what are right people thinking about? So right people are your thinkers. Value people are more your feelers. Important people are more about the self. And control people are more about that environment. So that's what you're going to want to bring into into situations. And you're not going to want to do it in every situation. So you're going to overwhelm yourself.
Yes.
So you're going to want to bring balance within it. but you're probably going to try and bring it into every chapter to some degree. And figure out how that navigates. It's going to be, how are you going to navigate that? What are you writing about? And you may want to say, I'm only working with engineers, and so what are my personality types with engineers? And if most of your engineers are CVs, and you only have 1% that might be CIs, you're going to really want to focus your target market on CVs, because you're not going to want to do RVs, because there aren't RVs in your market. So you want to also look at that too. You might want to do some research, because you don't want to mess with your audience.
Yeah, I love that. I think you have another book right there. I think you need to write a book, how authors can use the needs languages to write books that speak to the right people. I think I'm just saying, I think there's a book there.
I wouldn't be surprised. I've got to tell you, this next one that's coming out, I was not going to write one on relationships, and it was with an independent contractor that was working with me, and they looked at me and they said, "You're not writing one for relationships? How dare you?" Basically, in so many words, they said, "You can't do that. You've got to write one for relationships." They said, I'm a little annoyed with my husband because they're not doing things a certain way. Now, I believe in multiple different kinds of relationships. I'm not just saying that. And they said, "What about this situation?" And I just went like boom, boom, boom. And they said, "You need to write one for relationships." I'm like,
yeah.
When you're a writer and you've got like 10 lists of all these books, and you're like, you just added another one to my list.
Yes.
You know how much work I've already got in my brain.
Yeah.
And so we have one coming out for Valentine's Day, which should be out probably or sometime early next week, called Bringing Balance, the Needs Language, Bring Balance and Belonging in Romantic Relationships.
Wonderful.
So
that's great.
And this one's going to have a little humor. We have a chapter called Don't Bring on the Hot Flashes, because we consider menopause is the change. And so we're trying to not get you to change your partners.
Right. Right. No, I love it. I love that. I love that. So what are some of the other titles that you have in this list? Or what are the other topics that you think you might add to the series?
We talk about not silent. So one of the themes that we bring in a lot, we do talk about the love languages and talking about the difference between the love languages. We do talk about not silencing people, being silent versus silenced, which is huge, because we can easily silence people in our personalities. And the stronger the personality, and then the triangle, the victim, rescue, predator triangle. And this one we did the romantic partner relationships. We did a little more humor with, but we do talk a lot about the victim, predator, rescuer triangle, because that's a really big thing in our society, and we really need to be dealing with that. We need to stop being in that triangle as a society. And I'm not saying people haven't been victimized, but we need to start going, okay, we've all had harm. Let's stop. Let's validate each other. Let's have empathy and say, I'm sorry if you've gone through that, and let's stop hurting each other.
Yes. Yeah. No, I like that. I don't want to be a victim or a predator or a rescuer. Neither role is healthy. There's got to be a fourth role somewhere that's far more healthy, right?
Yeah.
So do you offer services based on the books?
I do. I am doing consulting and coaching. I am working my way towards doing the workplace needs language. I have that one coming out. We're going to probably have that one out right before April. I am going to be speaking at a PSYOP convention, which is the Society for IO Psychologists. And so I'm going to have that one out. And then I do individual coaching and individual consulting. And I do have other modalities that I can bring in, like EFT and NLP and, all those other little initial type things, But I am doing the needs languages. I can help you discover your needs language. I can help you there are things that we can do regarding like manifesting through your needs languages, because there are certain groups that tend to easier, they manifest easier through their needs languages that we've noticed. We've also noticed that people can get into dangerous situations because people tap in through your needs languages. And learning how not to let, because that's really what happens. People can't, like a control right, there's no connection. So they can't, but an important can get into me, a value can get into me. So if there's a connector there, and again, these are other personality models have not talked about this. And it's been very interesting, or even just some shattering that can happen because that hasn't been dealt with in your you know, how do you work through that importance, or how do you even communicate with your needs language? How do you find balance? So those are some of the things we work through. I do like the designing your ideal person. That's really a fun one.
Sounds like
I
fun.
have a whole worksheet on that. That's a fun one.
Sounds like fun. Yeah, it sounds like fun. It kind of brings up like you know, images of some certain movies when you say design your partner. But you know, that's a whole other show. Let's not go into that. Where can people get in touch with you? What's the best?
They can get in touch with me on the 7 Candles. You have to put because apparently some people end up on some weird 7 Candles somewhere when they don't put the in front of it. Facebook is a great place to find me. I do have a YouTube channel. I'm putting out weekly posts there. Those are usually the best place. I am getting my LinkedIn up, so you can find me on LinkedIn. And those are the best place. I think I'm just going to kind of keep it there, because otherwise you get over social media, you know.
Yes.
And I don't really want to do 50 Twitter posts.
No, I get it.
Yeah, I get Twittered out.
Yeah. So we'll put all of those in the description. I don't think I have your LinkedIn, so maybe you can send that to me and I'll add that in. I love LinkedIn. It's one of my favorite places to hang out. So if you pass me that LinkedIn, I'll put it in for people as well. So that's where you can get a hold of Nicole and reach her through the 7 Candles and find out what your needs languages are. You have 2 of them, and figure out how you can work with other people or live with other people or work with other people using those, so we can be a far more inclusive society, and everyone has something they're bringing to the table, and not letting things get in the way, so that we can see what they have to bring. I think that's a wonderful, I'm going to use the word goal, but then I'm going to get labeled. I know what kind of person you are, Melody.
Well, you could still be another person besides what the important is. You got those too.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Nicole, for coming on today. I really, really appreciated it. It was a fabulous conversation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for singing along with me. We made a great song. We wrote this beautiful musical book. Is this the first time you've written a musical book with someone?
Maybe not. It's hard to say. I'm gonna let viewers decide how musical I usually am.
Let's see if you're going to start a musical author series.
Yes, that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Nicole, thank you so much. Authors and Author Nation, thank you for tuning in today. I've really loved this conversation. Find Nicole, talk to her about the needs languages, and don't forget to become part of the Author Nation community if you are not yet. And I will see you next Thursday for another show.